Hey guys, and welcome back. So today we have this question, why is it that a knife seems scarier than a sword? And when I first asked that question, it might sound kind of wrong, because a knife really shouldn't be scarier than a sword. A knife is a much smaller weapon, it's less designed for fighting and for killing people, but that's really why this question is confusing. So a sword is a lot more dangerous than a knife is, and that's pretty obvious. Pretty much everyone knows that. But we tend to be less careful with swords than we are with knives, and I found that really interesting. Just experimenting with different things and seeing what I was naturally more careful with and what I was naturally less careful with. Um, Also, I have accidentally cut myself with a knife. I've never cut myself with a sword. I it's just hasn't happened to me. Um, and most people are more likely to have been injured with this rather than having been injured with a big sword. And let's be honest, the media kind of gives people some really unrealistic ideas about what a sword can and cannot do. Like, I don't know, there's tons of examples of them stabbing swords into the ground or into a rock. Um, like that, what was it, Kid Who Would Be King movie. Yeah, he stabs a sword into a rock several times. I know it's a magical sword and all, but still, it gives people these expectations because that was a movie that's supposed to be happening in modern day. So people are like, oh, this is almost real. Um, Also, just playing with a knife. Say you were outside and you were just kind of fighting the air with a knife. That feels like you're in more danger. You're being more dangerous than if you were swinging a sword around. And I don't entirely know why. One interesting thing I've thought is playing with a knife might actually be more dangerous than playing with a sword. A knife is something that's very small. It's a lot smaller than a sword. Um, It's hard to follow with your eyes when it's moving around. You can't really feel it there as much. Like with a sword, you can feel its weight swinging around. You can feel where it is in the air. But with a knife, it's almost weightless compared to a sword, and it's very hard to just feel where it is. So if you can't see it very well and you also can't feel it very well, you have less of a sense of where the weapon is and how it could be causing you danger. I mean, in media, the sword is since there are so few swords seen today, just regularly, I feel like it doesn't feel quite real. Like people don't have that sense of why it's dangerous or how to be careful with it because it feels like something that belongs in a movie. It feels like something that belongs in a movie. It doesn't belong in this world anymore, which is pretty sad, honestly. Um, but this is no longer something of our world or is not looked at it like that. This, people would say, oh, this belongs in Pirates of the Caribbean. And in Pirates of the Caribbean, we see people tossing swords around and things like that. And people get wrong ideas of what's safe and what's not. And a sword feels like a toy, basically. That's uh that's the best way to put it. People see this as a toy because it's not used in the world anymore. So people don't have real life examples of the injuries and the damage that this is capable of doing because no one really gets attacked with swords anymore. And people don't fight with swords anymore. Um, but there are still knives used in warfare, and they are designed to be practical in combat. So the knife is still something that's being used, but the sword has become more or less impractical in today's warfare, with things like just guns and bombs and nukes. A sword is not something that you want to have on you. It's just too big. It takes up too much space. It's too heavy. It's too hard to run with compared to all the other stuff that you could be carrying. Um, and that's sad too. Just how warfare has changed over the generations. I think things have gotten a lot less, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. But I know you have to adapt to survive, but it's, I don't really like the direction we're going in, but there's no reversing it. Um, Things like nukes, I mean, it's just a threatening game now. And just seeing who can threaten to kill more civilians, not even soldiers, civilians, than the other nation can. And if one nation launches off a nuke, the other nation can launch a nuke too before this nuke hits. So by the time both nukes hit, both nations have been nuked and a bunch of people are dead. So yeah, hopefully that answered the question. If any of you guys had that in your head, it's kind of an abstract question, but I kind of tend to think of a lot of weird random stuff, and this had been bugging me for a while, so I decided to make a video on it. Let me know if you guys want to see more of this kind of video. This is pretty fun to make, and I do like having to be able to have this set up. I'm gonna be slightly upgrading this at some point too. It's not gonna stay exactly like you're seeing it. Also, a little something. This stiletto that I had, I reviewed this in my previous video, which was like forever ago. Sorry, I haven't made a video in a while. I went on a big trip. Uh, so this stiletto, you know how I couldn't open it in the last video? Well, it's now completely broken in, and I can easily open and close it with one hand. But I could do it left-handed. Anyway, yeah. So I thought you guys might want to know that that this is not something that you can't open. Very easily opened with one hand once it's been broken in. I didn't even oil it or anything. Over time, it just kind of did that. All right, guys. So that's about it for today. I do have some more videos planned, and that will be coming up soon. And stay tuned for those.